Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, February 16th. It's not quite 4 o'clock. The sun is shining here in Miami. It's a beautiful President's Day. Been outside, but decided that listening to some of the things heard today, reading some of what I read today, and experiencing what I experienced this morning, it's time to take a quick pulse of where we are in the market. So, understand this, people. When you're in a taxi or an Uber and the driver starts talking to you about trading stocks, when you're in the dentist's office and the dentist is saying he's making more money day trading crypto, when people are saying markets can never go down again and they're levering up and how easy it is to make money, that's when we're at a top. Now, yes, it can go on for days, weeks, or even months from that point. And yes, it can go higher. And people who short markets because of that often get wrecked because markets can stay insane for longer than you can stay solvent. It's still far closer to the top, probably in the middle of the blow off top than when you're at the bottom. Similarly, when you hear things like the people who said to sell at a higher price or at a top, getting unbelievable hubris, saying how smart they were, how dumb people are for not listening. When you hear rehashing of narratives saying that the asset they're talking about, of course, it's going to zero or going to effectively zero, depending on who you are, and doing things that absolutely make no sense given the strength of the underlying asset, that's when you know you're probably getting toward a bottom. Layer in emotions running high. Those who are long, despondent, despairing, irritable, or yelling, and those who are short, yet acting triumphant as if their shit doesn't stink. And they can say the dumbest things imaginable, and it doesn't matter because they've been right. And that's when you know you're at a bottom. Welcome to Bitcoin, February 16th, 2026. Despite trading at a price of 68,000, which is where it is right now, which is where it was the last four videos within a thousand or two, last 4 to 5 videos that I've made, despite being obviously in a narrow range, having found what seems to be a bottom at below 60, but unable to muster a lot of demand on the upside yet. Despite that, the narratives have started to follow the price. People looking at the same chart that I looked at, which shows Bitcoin down 67% off its high in gold terms, which is within 10% of it needs to drop 75% or more, 77 to be accurate, for it to be the full bear market. Despite the fact that we have an entire new class of investors who have sucked up most of the supply from the old investors, which, by the way, is distribution that was necessary for Bitcoin. Despite all of that, we get people now saying, well, gold is proven it's going to go to the moon. I'm seeing things in gold that people are talking about 10, 20, $30,000 prices in gold in the same way that people thought I was crazy when I said a few months ago that gold would find equilibrium around 5,000. Now, that equilibrium of 5,000 is what I believe. I think gold is right now at its equilibrium price, except the world continues to print money. And as long as it does so at 8 to 10% a year, then next year's equilibrium is 5,500. And the year after that, it's, it's so on and so on. I don't want to start doing percentage math and compounding. But the truth is that gold has that. Silver is a little bit different. I think silver will outperform. I've said why. I'm not going into it now. It has to do with massive new technologies you create, spurring industrial demand. But Bitcoin is something very different. Bitcoin will either be a future store of value that rivals gold and start eating into gold's monetary premium, which is most of its value, or it won't. If it does, it will go 10, 20 times today's price without having ever reached equilibrium. And this notion that it has to move in cycles of up a bit and then down a bunch and up a bit and then down a bunch. Well, that was true when the entire trading was dominated by retail and by old holders who were looking for new people to sell their bags to cash out. Well, starting in July of 2025, we had an epic rotation from those old holders into newer holders. And yes, the price did go down because it always will. That's the nature of markets. When large supply comes unlocked, prices go down and they find equilibrium when new buyers step in. Well, we have that. We had a massive deleveraging event on October 10th, which for those who are following me know, and by the way, follow at DM Weisberger, not Dave Weisberger, because that account is still hacked and frozen by X. I said at the time that it would probably take 6 months to clear the leverage, just like it did with Luna. Luna went from May, it bottomed in November. We don't remember that, but that's what happened. Well, 6 months is rapidly coming upon us. It will come upon us in the next couple of months. And at the same time, it will come upon us. There will be the largest tax refund checks going out in the history of the United States. Now, you could do that math and say, maybe I don't want to be short going into that period. I think that will be wise. But the point that we see today, Mike McGlone acting like a strutting, basically a strutting runway model, which is kind of a bad analogy given what Mike looks like, but really pumped up and talking about how it's certain that Bitcoin's going to 10,000 and below, et cetera, because there are, quote, infinite competitors to Bitcoin. Anyone can produce it, which betrays real ignorance of Bitcoin. I mean, yes, you can create crypto at will on pump.fun. But my friend Donish, Operation Donish, had the best line. He said, yeah, that's just like saying that gold is infinitely creatable because it's a rock and there's a virtual infinite amount of rocks in the universe. Bitcoin is different. And understanding that, the hubris that get to that level is difficult. Now, at the same time, Larry Lepard, who was on the show, lost his cool and degenerated into F-bombs and left because he couldn't take the stupidity. Now, the truth is I understand. I think it was stupid, but I do think that debate is the better way to get to it. In any case, the emotion itself is the signal. If you want to understand when markets turn, they turn when those who think they're right are crowing the most and acting like they're invincible, and those who have been on the wrong side of it act either despondent or angry. And that is one of the things that repeats throughout history every time. So today, that's where we are. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to happen next week. I wouldn't be surprised to see February effectively get closer to a green candle than its second, red candle. By the way, the one of the funny things is that people said, well, Bitcoin has never had a January and February both down month. And therefore, if it does, it's going to zero. Okay, whatever. You can only imagine the derision which I feel that statement. But of course, February, we don't know what's going to happen. I suspect it will be a down month. March will be probably flattish to up. April will be significantly up, and then in May, and as the tax refunds come in, we'll probably be off to the races. If you want to have a good statistic, after down years when people haven't had to sell for capital gains, then after down years, post April, May, is when we've had on average a 50% rally in Bitcoin. And most of that has been propelled by liquidity and a lack of selling from capital gains perspective. But that's enough for today. Just wanted to talk about it. It's a vacation day. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have more stuff to talk about. But for now, stay safe out there.